when you're with the same group of people for that long, you end up talking about things that you normally, you run out of things to talk about from a professional standpoint, so you have to talk about personal stuff, right?
Hmm.
Um, has anybody ever become vulnerable on us on like, when they're just having a random chat about just life in general? And how do you, whether that's yourself or anybody else, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I had when we were on uh, our Oceans, which is the Netflix series that came
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
We were working with the killer whales in the Antarctic, and actually I had been so I went straight from this shoot. I had a couple days in Argentina in between, and then I went straight back to the Antarctic on another boat for the Netflix shoot. And so I was away from home for 3 months, which was really difficult for me. I was away from home during the holidays as well, Christmas, New Year's, all that sort of stuff, which I'm used to, but it's always difficult being away from family and friends and stuff like that for a period of time, and then during the holidays. And then my wife and I, we have a couple of cats, and one of our cats we've had for 18 years.
Mm,
Um, and when we were in the Antarctic on the boat, they got Starlink before we left dock. So for the first time ever in the Antarctic, I was able to have video chats with my wife, which was amazing because before it
mm.
was just text based. So it was amazing. But she called me one morning. Our cat, we knew he was getting old, and they're part of the family. We had him for 18 years. Is a pretty long time to have a pet. Um, and he was to the point where he was unable to walk, and she was going to have to put him down. And she wanted me to see him one last time beforehand, so she gave me a video call, and it was first thing in the morning, and I was I was pretty upset for a couple of days, but definitely that day. But I didn't want to. There's nowhere. We were on a really small boat, and there's almost nowhere that you can stand where there's not somebody around, so you can't really have time to yourself. And I had to work. That was the beginning of the day. I had to work that day, so we were underwater. I was like tearing up inside of my mask underwater, and having to like clear the tears out of my mask and still do my job effectively and safely. Um, and I didn't want to bring anybody else down on the boat, and I did tell one of my colleagues on the boat. I think he picked up on something, and he did ask me, and I just mentioned to him like this is what happened, and he just didn't quite immediately. He gave me a big giant hug, and that was what I needed. It was nice. It was
Yeah.
again, you spend that much time with people in a really difficult place, and you definitely you bond, and especially in those difficult environments. It's a hard job, and I think it would be hard not to be really good friends with the
Yeah.
crew at the end. And often you're working with different people, but I do occasionally work with the same people over and over again as well, which is nice because
Yeah.
you go through these bonding sort of shoots, and then you don't see each other for a year or 2 years, or sometimes 10 years, and then you either run into somebody somewhere else, or on another shoot, and yeah, that's nice.
That's really cool. You mentioned your wife and how is she, I'm sure she's supportive, which obviously is why you were doing what you're doing still. Uh,
Mhm.
but being able to be away for 3 months, right? And or even more or more or less throughout the year. How does that sort of work out in the understanding that you guys have? If that's not too much of a personal question, you can pass that. I just
No,
thought I
it's a fair question. No, my wife, I can honestly say she is. I wouldn't be doing the job that I have without her. I was in my um, in my previous career. I did end up at one point getting an office job that paid really well. Um, I didn't love it, but it was secure and stable. and I was turning down opportunities. It was in the transition of, going in between sort of photography and cinematography, and I was turning down opportunities to go out into the field to go work with the Arabian humpbacks and a couple other cetacean populations globally. And uh, my wife, when I was about to turn one down, she convinced me to quit my job and go into cinematography full time. And it was definitely difficult. It was a massive change in pay, and there was a few years of being really slow. But then when it picked up a lot. Um, and she has never once said you can. Every time I've shown her a shoot, she said you have to go and do it. And I have my wife is an engineer and she likes to plan a year in advance, so she often will book like a vacation or something like that, several months or even a year in advance. And there's been several where she's had to take friends because I got offered a shoot that we both agreed I couldn't refuse. And um and so she took our one of our neighbors on one of our vacations, because again, often we have stuff that you can't, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going to get your money back if you cancel. And so she's gone anyway. She's gone on a few scuba diving trips on her own with our friends that we were meeting out there. um, I've missed birthdays, Christmases, um, a lot of personal, and family sort of events over the years, which is difficult. But at the same time, you know, I wouldn't give my job up for
Yeah.
anything. I'll do this job until I don't even see retirement in the books. I'll do it until I can't hold a camera anymore. So I really just enjoy it that much. And again, my wife is never. I'm very, very, very lucky.